One. So, good morning, everyone. We are super excited today because it is time for a Snapchat. And as you all know, this is a brief conversation with people who can share information that you can use to make a part of your puzzle, right? So as you're building your future, you're going to have lots of different information, lots of different experiences that are going to be puzzle pieces. And it's going to be up to you to put them together in a way that works for you, your family, and your community. So today is also day 2 of Black History Month. Yay. And we're excited to have on today Miss Charisse Davis, who currently serves as a board member for Post 6 for the Cobb County School. And I'm just going to give her an opportunity to introduce herself. So, floor is yours.
Hello. Thank you, John, for having me here today and speaking again to the Garrett Middle community. So I'm Charisse Davis. I am on the Cobb School Board, as Mr. Rosu said. And in addition, I'm also a mom. I was a educator for a very long time, 15 years, and then went into the public library field for a few years. And I'm someone who never thought I would run for office, and just given a little nudge and encouragement, went ahead and did this wild thing and entered into politics. So I am currently the only woman on the Cobb School Board. And yeah, we're making history even in Cobb County. So look forward to the conversation and answering questions that you might have.
Awesome. So, right off the bat, you already said something that I think is interesting.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you never saw yourself doing what you're doing right now. And I know that we have a lot of students who have expectations about where they're going to be today, maybe even tomorrow, maybe even in the future. But I'm wondering what puts you in a position. What was that mindset that made you say, I need to do this thing that I never ever expected to do?
So sometimes you are not going to think that you can do something, but other people think and know you can. I even had this experience in high school, and my AP history teacher suggested that I run for student government president. And there was already this super popular cheerleader running for the position, and I was like, yeah, no way, right? And he's like, I see leadership in you. I see leadership potential in you. I think you would do a really great job. Consider running. And I did, and I lost, but it's funny because here I was all these years later thinking about that, because the same thing happened where somebody said, hey, have you thought about doing this? We think you can do it. We would like to support you in doing it. I think the first step for me when the idea was even thrown out there was to take a look at the board. And I had been somewhat involved already. I knew who my board member was. I'd actually spoken at public comment before as a parent. And but I went on the website and I looked at the board, and I just thought, this isn't the Cobb County I know. It doesn't look like the schools where my kids are. Representation wasn't there. And we know that's important. We also know that, it's not just about representation. Like, you actually have to use your voice to help others. But that was really the first step. And it didn't sit right with me, and thinking that I might be able to do something to make the school board look more representative of the community at large. I kind of felt almost like it was like my duty to do so. So here we are.
So you mentioned other people seeing things in you that maybe you didn't see. And also you mentioned representation. And I'm wondering for students who are in middle school who have a lot of students come to us with challenges that they're experiencing. And a lot of times the expectation is that, hey, somebody else needs to fix this, or hey, can somebody else do something to make this better? And I'm wondering what you would say to your middle school self that would be helpful to some of our students who are dealing with issues that they feel might be really big that they themselves can't change.
Yeah, I mean, if enough of us do that and think, okay, somebody else, then we're always waiting for that change, right? I mean, it's the whole saying about, be the change you want to see. And this is not, it's not easy. It's not easy work, but it's certainly worth it. And sometimes if you just know, like, this is really, it's on me. There's no one else coming in to save the day. And you just realize, like, me putting myself out there is going to help people that I may never know. People years from now will benefit from the work that I do today. And we do this work not because there's something that's going to change next week. If you are doing that, you are probably going to be very disappointed. But when you have that mindset of, like, this moment right now is going to make things better for whether it's, people in my own family or not, people today or not, that once you kind of get your head around that, you sit with it, whatever, if it's good or bad, if it's taking a long time or not, you just know that it's all, it has a purpose. We're all dealing with stuff. And, I feel like it has to start with having that confidence in yourself that better days are ahead for yourself and for others, and that you really do have power. You have power, and it may not seem like it, and you're oftentimes told that you don't, which can be very, very frustrating. But for someone like me, and I hope for our kids, that only empowers me more, not less. We're dealing with a whole lot right now in terms of, even just voting, something we teach our kids is such a basic right that they now have and they will have. But, all of these bills are coming out now to limit voting. And, we could just, throw our hands in the air and like, oh, Georgia. But no, that's not what we're going to do. I mean, you have to fight for even the most basic of rights. That's never, it hasn't ended. And so, I'm thinking too about Black History Month, and you're going to be learning about all these figures, but we can't look at that as like some time ago and these things that happened, which weren't that long ago to begin with, even if you're talking about civil rights era and all that. Like, we are still at that, in that work, in that fight, even if we're not like, marching or, it's different now, but certainly it's not over.
Okay. So what were some things in middle school that really helped you prepare for where you are right now?
Oh, wow. Middle school. Middle school is a funny time because, and I'm talking too, also as a parent, I have my oldest is in high school now. So he's in ninth grade now, but we just came out of middle school, and I'll have another one going in next year. And I just think about, it's just that it's a funny time. You're in between, right? You're no longer the babies in elementary school, but you're not quite high schoolers yet. And you really are finding out who you are and also who your people are. I think that one thing that just made me like get through middle school and also feel like, okay, that was all right. That wasn't, too bad, was that I found my people, and we did things that maybe weren't, we did what we wanted to do. So for us, it was, I remember thinking that like, it was really just a book club, like nothing fancy, but, at the time we just knew that we wanted to read these like, VC Andrews and books that really weren't for kids, but we felt really cool because we were reading like these, kind of adult like scary books, and we would talk about it at lunch, and so my thing is like, you have to find your thing and find your people, but also of course realizing that you have to expand your bubble, right? And you have to take the initiative to get to know people that you don't think are just like a natural fit, because some of those relationships, honestly, that I have from middle school, those are my best friends to this day. Those are my people. And so we kind of found each other, and I would just tell myself like, things are going to be okay. They're going to be awkward, and they're going to be tough, and there's going to be some hurdles, but things will be okay.
Okay. So it was really important for you to kind of identify things that matter to you.
Yeah.
And and you found people who had common interests and y'all spent time together.
Yeah.
One thing I would say was you have to also be open to expanding things that you already know and doing things that you're not used to doing. And that just seems like a theme in a lot of what you're talking about today. So who are some of the people that helped you make the most out of your mindset and out of the experiences that you had? Like who are people that really helped you along the way?
Yeah, so I definitely feel like I always had somebody at school. And it wasn't always a teacher. Sometimes it was an assistant principal, just people who I knew, like I could talk to them. I also, I could feel that they believed in me. Um, and you've got to find that person. You have to have that person. And it could be the secretary in the office. It could be a teacher. It could be a counselor. It could be one of our nutrition workers. Like, finding that person within the school building, that's your person, and whether you need to talk to someone about anything, you need a little encouragement. Like, I think those relationships are very important. um, and of course, my family, my parents, who actually didn't live to see me get elected to this office, but I just think, like, you know just how they raised us to, I mean, my parents worked very, very hard. And, their thing was just always like, just go after it, and just don't give up, and it can be very easy to give up. And so, yeah, I think, and it's kind of funny how all of the different things that you experience over the years, you don't ever quite know in the moment, like, what it's going to be that matters 20 years later. And like I said, going back to even high school, when I had that teacher give me the nudge to run for a high school office, and when I tell this story to younger kids, and I'll say, did I win? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, no, I didn't, like, I didn't win, but I didn't look back and think like, oh, that was a waste of my time. Like, that took a lot for me to do that. And it all kind of builds up to you doing some pretty, amazing things, especially as you get older in life.
So I think dealing with failure is a challenge that a lot of us
Yeah.
with. I think also being afraid of standing out
Yeah.
is that a lot of folks deal with, especially in middle school. So
Oh, yeah.
what advice or what tips do you have for our students who may want to do big things, but they're afraid of how they might look? Or perhaps they have tried before to do something and it didn't work out. It may be as something as simple as I tried to complete that math problem and I got the wrong answer, or
Yeah.
I was really trying hard to finish my work on time, but I missed that assignment and I got a zero. Right?
Yeah.
How would you encourage people, or what would you say to students who are trying to overcome big and small fears?
Yeah. No, that's, I mean, a great question, because, I mean, it's going to happen to all of us, and it still happens. I think one piece of advice I have is that you have to celebrate the wins, like, wherever they are. And so, particularly when you're talking about schoolwork and things like that, it's, you know, okay, you didn't, if you didn't do well on this exam, there's a plenty more coming, right? And so it's like, what can we do, focusing on the idea of growth, which is so important. Because, I mean, we've all been there, like, I remember, like, math was never my thing. And one thing that I hope that younger kids and the kids at Garrett know, like, I know with my generation, like, we oftentimes said, I'm not a math person. Well, we know now, if we didn't know then, that you're not, like, born with some kind of math gene. And of course, there are going to be people who go on and do, much higher levels of math and all of that. But, like, you're not just born bad at math or good at math. And I think that, we offer opportunities now for kids to kind of figure out what works for them in terms of understanding math concepts that, like, we didn't have. And I just think, there's again, power in that. but I've done poorly in classes, and I was the kind of student, I was a good student, but I definitely I had to get tutored after school, and I do I pride myself on that, because I have those friends that like everything just came so naturally to them in school. That was not me. It actually was not. And I'm somebody who now has all these degrees, because I realized I love learning, and learning didn't have to just be a snap for me to actually enjoy it, and again celebrate those small wins.
2127.
So you know I think one thing that, and especially just again with generations, it's just kind of like feeling like, oh, I had a failure, like I am a failure, or, that's not supposed to happen, when nothing could be further from the truth. Like, no, we are all going to fail at many things. And that's just a part of your story, not the story. So, yeah.
Okay. So I'm wondering, with the remaining time that we have, man, what has it been like for you to navigate life as a Black woman?
Ooh, so I mean, I'm somebody who I have quite a story, just in terms of like, moving all around. I actually grew up in New York. My in the Bronx. My mother's family is from Puerto Rico. My father is African American, born in South Carolina. Moved up to New York, which was, of course, very common, right, with the Great Migration up north. And didn't really ever think about race all that much. But I'll tell you, like the first and only time I've ever been called a name, called the N-word, I heard the N-word, was actually in New York City, like attending my Catholic school in New York City. And then when I was older elementary, moved to Orlando, which is a funny place because, you know, so many people move there from other places. And I remember just, our schools being very much so diverse, not just like Black and white, but like, a lot of a huge Caribbean community, a huge Guyanese community, of course, Latino, like it being like all of these diverse groups of folks. But then, of course, you get to high school and you see the kind of, cornering off that people do. And I always kind of prided myself, and my friends did as well, is like, we had this very diverse group of friends. And, I, having experienced all that, for me, I definitely felt like I needed more. I wanted to feel strong in this world where, race is such a big deal. And I don't really remember my parents talking a lot about that. I have conversations now with my 11-year-old that, I mean, they could last all day because he's always fired up. And I just would like, I think my parents tried to protect me, even though I remember them dealing with stuff at work. So when it was time for me to go to college, the only college I chose was a historically Black college. It's the only one I applied to. And so I ended up coming here to the Atlanta area to go to Spelman. And that is, I mean, by far one of the best things I've ever done. I would be so happy if my boys attended a HBCU. I am not sitting here talking to you all if I hadn't gone to Spelman. I don't think so. What I got from there is that, I mean, you are what we need in the world, the change, and we are expecting you to go out and bring about that change. And let us teach you about your history. Let us teach you about the African diaspora, like who we are all around the world, because our story is so much more than, Black people were slaves and came here, which is oftentimes like how your first introduction to Black people, for all people in this country, is oftentimes, Black people were brought here by slaves, and then there was Martin Luther King. I mean, come on, and so it definitely, it did something to me where I just felt like, wow, like I am a part of this huge, rich tradition and history, and I have to do my part. And so that's, kind of what I feel like I'm doing here now as well. Um, but I feel it now. I'm the only second woman of color on the Cobb board, second Black woman. The last one, her name was Peggy Lawson. I had to go back into the AJC archives to even learn about her. You're not going to be able to look her up on the Cobb site or anything. She was the first Black person on the Cobb school board, first person of color ever. And that was 28 years ago. So we're not talking about 70 years ago. It was not that long ago. So I was about 12 when she got on the board, and the experiences that she had, sometimes I just I have to shake my head and just think like, wow, like here we are almost 30 years later, and like her and I, she's no longer living, but I could imagine the conversation I'd be having with her, and we would be sharing many of the same stories, which is sad, right? Because it's 30 years later. But but look, we've come so far, but we also are not there yet. Obviously, we know that. And so then what? The work continues and the fight continues. So yeah, it's tough. And the thing is, one last thing I'll say is that Cobb is a beautifully diverse county. It is. And it's not, oh, it will be, it's changing. No, it's already changed. That's one of the great things about this county is the diversity. And I know at the elementary school my child is at, like, I think they've said that 28 countries are represented by the people that are there. And that, I mean, that's our country, that's the world, and there's so many lessons in that alone. And so anytime we're not embracing diversity or we're still treating people like others, I just think, that's you're missing out, and you're going to be at a disadvantage. You are at a disadvantage if that's what you're still doing in the year 2021.
So that's an interesting point. I don't often hear it framed that way. Like if you are the one who is trying to separate yourself from diversity, then you're missing out on
Yeah.
what could be a treat. So I think that's a very great way to frame things.
Yeah.
We have a few minutes left. You all are welcome to put your questions in the chat. We got a couple comments. Someone says, "Hey, Spelman sister, represent." And then also for anyone who doesn't know, an HBCU is a historically Black college or university. And so we have a lot of those, a lot of access to those. And it doesn't mean that you have to be Black to attend. It means that at one point in time, there were historically white colleges and universities that excluded Black people from participating. And so a lot of Black people and lots of groups of folks from many different races kind of pulled together to create their own institutions of higher learning. So now they accept everyone, and you're welcome to attend the great institution, whether you're Black, white, Latino, or any other race. So we got some FAMU people, Rattlers in the building. Oh yeah, we got some folks representing NYC as well, the Bronx, and the Catholic school.
Yeah, that's what we do.
One of my little homies said hello. What legacy do you want to leave or represent being on the Cobb County School Board?
So, oh, that's a deep question, because you also have to pivot when like you come in and you're like, all right, I'm here, everybody, like I'm ready to work, and they're like, have all the seats. So like we don't want to hear that. So you got to kind of pivot to what you consider leaving that legacy. But I think for me right now, so many people feel like they don't have a voice. Our students feel that way. We have staff that feels that way. And to me, that alone is the issue, like, okay, so let's fix that. And I'm a fixer and I want to problem solve. And, when people don't want to do that, you realize like, okay, so let's back it up. You don't want to talk about it, but we're still going to. And like, I'm going to use my voice to represent the people that don't have a voice, that don't feel like they have a voice, for lots of different reasons. And so that's what I want to do. It's what I feel like I am doing. It's hopefully I want to be known ultimately when this is all said and done for having done much more than just, using my voice, and actually bring some good change. I want everybody to feel like Cobb is the best place to teach, lead, and learn. We say that, we say it a lot, but for me, if there's one student, if there's one teacher that doesn't feel that way, then we're not quite meeting the goal. And so that doesn't hurt my feelings. For me, I'm like, okay, well, let's get to work so that we are at a place at some point where 100% of people associated with Cobb just feel like this is literally the best place to be. So I think you have to have a certain level of confidence and pride to do the kind of work I'm talking about. But at the same time, you have to be humble enough to understand, okay, that's not working. And us just saying it doesn't make it so. So we'll see. This is 2 years in. It feels like a lot longer that I've been on the board, but it's just 2 years. I am grateful for, again, finding your people, right? And I've been able to do that with other members of the board. And funny enough, I think all three of us went to HBCUs. I need to double check on Trey, but I just feel like there's kind of this feeling that we have about like, wait, what did you say? You said no? Okay, well, okay. I'll figure out what else I need to do, because you're not just gonna take that and let people marginalize you. So, yeah.
Yes, man. Thank you so much for all of your words of encouragement, and sharing your experience. I want to tell the students, complete that link I just posted in the chat. That'll give us feedback about how you feel everything went. And remember, I mean, we're here for you. So we want to make sure that whatever you're participating in, you have an opportunity to grow from it and that you are participating, period. All right, so other things I want to shout out real quick. We got Southern U in the building. We got Bethune-Cookman. We got Queens, New York. We got the unsinkable Albany State University. I Love Jackson State University represented as well. And I think that's all the HBCUs we got currently in the chat. So, thank you all for attending, but more importantly, thank you, Ms. Davis, for spending your time with us today. And y'all show her some love in the chat. She put, Ms. Davis also put her contact information. So if anyone wants to get in contact with her, you can. And yeah, man, y'all are awesome. Make sure you do something today to show it. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. This was incredible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good day. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye. Thank y'all.